presentation of this. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Okay, we're live. Excellent. So we are talking about ledger lines, which we mentioned a little bit last week. We are talking about flats, sharps, and naturals. So those accidentals that you see at the beginning of notes, or sometimes in your key signature, right? And what those do to those notes. All right. If at any point you have questions or you need help with bell work, make sure you're come in for a lesson. We can do bell work during your lesson. Ask for help in here. We should have a little bit of time to get started on this. So if you don't understand some of the instructions, make sure you ask for that help before you head out today, okay? Because this is, like I said, starting to get a little bit more complicated, definitely. All right, ledger lines. Ledger lines are scarier than I think, or not as scary as people make them out to be. Scarier than you think. No, not as scary as some people try to make them out to be, okay? Literally, if you know lines and spaces and your alphabet up to the letter G, you can do this, okay? That's all it is. That is all it is. So we know our notes within the staff, right? Every good boy does fine, face for treble clef, and then bass clef, great big dogs fight animals, all cows eat grass, right? We can figure stuff out within the staff. Then we see things that are outside of the staff, and some people are like, ah, freak out, okay? Lines and spaces, alphabet. If you know those two things, you can figure out anything that's outside of the staff. I see some Chromebooks open, I see some people who are on phones, put them away. Okay, so I know that top line is F, right? Every good boy does fine. That's on a line, right? The line's going through it. It's on a line. I'm going to continue with my line space pattern. Line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space. I know that was kind of hard to see, but it continues with that pattern. And the alphabet continues with that pattern. It doesn't suddenly jump to C there. That's an F. That's G. A, B, C, D, E, F. It'll continue that way, okay? Same thing below. The only thing you have to remember is that pattern is going to continue, right? But you got to go backwards. If this is E, F, G, this is also F. It's got to go backwards in the alphabet, and that's, I think, the hardest thing for people to remember, right? I know this bottom line is E. Every good boy does fine. If that's E, one note before E would be D. One note before D would be C. It's going to continue. Same thing in bass clef. Remember, we can overlap, right? Bass clef, this C right here, the C above the staff on that first ledger line, is the same pitch as that. Exact same note. All right, which would mean, for those of you doing the advanced homework, if that's the same note as that D is the same as that D. This E is the same as that E. You can overlap between those two. All right, questions about ledger lines so far? Alphabet, line, and space. If you've got those two things, you've got it. All right, so remember, line, space, line, space, line, space, to infinity and beyond. Each line or space represents a different note. The alphabet always goes in order. I know, right? Okay, if you go above the staff, you go forward in the alphabet. Below the staff, you go backward in the alphabet. So write it out. Write A, B, C, D, E, F, G at the top of your page, and then you have a visual. You're like, oh, that's one letter before, that's one letter before, right? Okay, so let's try a couple. Let's start with treble clef. If you know it, please raise your hand. Give people a chance to think about it. Because some of us, like if you play flute, for example, you're used to reading above the staff, right? That's pretty normal. Sometimes if you're not used to reading above the staff, it takes a little while, right? You have to go through the alphabet, figure out which one is that. So please don't shout it out. Give everybody a chance to figure it out. Let's start with this one. We know that that's F. Raise your hand when you know what that is. And don't feel bad if it takes you a second. Go through the alphabet. Like I said, some people have to read up there all the time, so they just know. Good, getting there. Okay, Grant, what is it?
It is, sorry, just lost track.
It's okay. Space out.
It's a D.
D, yeah, good. So here's F, G, A, B, C, D. Excellent. Let's try this one. This one here, you have to go backwards in the alphabet, so you gotta visualize that alphabet. Okay, 3 lines below the staff. Ah! Let's try that again. 3 lines below the staff.
Below the staff? That's gonna be neat, but I don't think it's like a B.
Take the time to count it out.
Shoot.
This is where a visual reminder of the alphabet might be helpful if you have to count backwards. Drew, what do we have? You're so close. F. Yep. Here's E, D, C, B, A, G, F. Okay? How about in bass clef? Let's check this guy right here. My top line is what in bass clef? A. Very good. So when you know that one.
Think about this one.
Some of you read there all the time, so it's easy.
Wait, the third one, right?
This guy right here.
Oh, that one.
That one. Michaela? It's an E. Good. Here's A, B, C, D, E. Okay? Does that process make sense to everybody? You have to be careful when you're counting and going through your alphabet, but that's how that works. Okay. Quickly. We're going to talk about, I want to make sure I don't get too late here. 3:09 is when I'm done. All right. So I want to talk about our accidentals. We see these all the time in music. And they change the note in a way that's really important. Okay? You're going to see these a lot. We talked about them in key signatures, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that later once we get to key signatures. But you've seen these two symbols in key signatures. You'll also see them in front of notes throughout your music. They change the note that comes after it. Okay? So in this example, let's pretend we're in treble clef. I know there's no clef there, but that would be a G. Okay? Here's G. Just plain old G. Right? If I put a flat in front of it, it's no longer G, it's G flat. And the flat moves it down half step. Here's regular G, here's G flat. Okay, different note. Right? All right. Second example. So that would be a D. That one's got a sharp in front of it. Sharp is going to push that pitch up a half step. So here's regular D, here's D sharp. So again, maybe not mind-blowing, but really important to know, especially if you're sight singing. You don't want to sing this note if you're supposed to be singing this note, right? So there's some examples of sharps always going to be in front of the note. Flats always going to be in front of the note. Sharps raise, flats lower. Naturals. Cancel out a sharp or a flat. Okay? So like in the example where we just had G sharp, if you saw a natural in front of it, it's going to cancel it out and put it back to G natural. So this is really important. And this is maybe the part where some of you don't know this step. Okay? If I see an accidental within a measure, you see this guy right here? F sharp, right? It was F natural right there. That one didn't have one in front of it. Here's F sharp. Within that measure, it's like, yeah. Within that measure, once I see a sharp, it continues to be sharp. So this one, if that natural wasn't there, that would still be F sharp. That would still be F sharp. The sharp carries through the measure. Once you get to a bar line, it resets. And that's kind of a tricky thing visually to understand if you don't read a lot of music. But if that natural wasn't there, this would still be sharp. That would be F sharp. The natural cancels it out. Okay? It says, nope, go back. So this is what that would sound like. Here's F sharp, here's F natural. It goes back. Okay? It will also cancel out a sharp or a flat that's in the key signature. So you might just see a natural sort of throughout your music telling you to play the regular one, not the one that's sharp or flat in the key signature. We'll talk more about key signatures later on. What was that, Eddie?
So these confuse me every time, and I've done them for like 4 years.
Right, and it's pretty, conceptually it's pretty easy, right? Raise lower.
Yeah.
But the rules surrounding them are a bit tricky. That bit where it carries through the measure is one that I think a lot of people forget about. So if you see it there, it'll continue to be sharp until it resets at the bar line, unless you put a natural. Natural cancels it out, makes it go back to normal, okay? For the rest of the measure. Mm-hmm. Yes, unless of course you see another sharp, right? Yeah, okay. So This is one of the things you'll have to do. I want to make sure that you have some time to work and answer some questions. So let's skip this for now. Literally all it's asking you to do is this. I don't know if see if my pen works. Oh, the light came on. That's a good sign.
It's still green over here.
Oh!
Yeah.
Yay!
Oh my
So
God.
now doing it in treble clef. Okay. So if this is an A, there's A on the staff. I need to put a flat. Here's another like little rule thing that people forget about. When I write the letter name, I'm just gonna like draw all over here now that I've got markers again. All right, when I write the letter name, notice that the flat comes after the letter. When I write it on the staff, the flat has to come before the note. If I put it after the note, that's telling me that something later is flat. It's gotta be in front of it. So when you write the letter, it comes after. When you write it on the staff, it comes
It's gotta
before.
be on its line. not
Yes,
its
same line or space that the note is on, correct. Very good. Okay, I'm so excited to have pens again, this is exciting. Okay. Here is the other thing that is on both the basic and advanced versions of the work. And this is confusing to people, so I'm gonna try to help you out. Okay, if I want to write that note, but raised a half step, what would I add to it? Sure, okay, that's easy enough. All right, C, I went up a half step, C sharp, easy. All right, same thing here. Here's regular G. I want to lower it by half step. What do I put? Flat in front of it, right? There's G flat, bingo. Now what do I do?
Natural.
It's already sharp, so this would not be correct.
That'd be a whole.
That would be a whole step down. Good. If I only want to lower it back down that half step, well, we'll get into half steps and whole steps later. But if it's already sharp and I want to take it down a half step, here's what that would look like. Okay.
Who came up with these signs?
Or vice versa, if it was flat and I wanted to raise
It's
it a half
like a
step.
combination of both of them.
Okay. So there are a couple like that on there. So that's why I wanted to point that out to you because that one kind of throws people for a loop sometimes. Okay. Questions? Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And this is also, guys, remember this is also on Google Classroom, this video. So if you're like, I have no idea what that rule about carrying through the measure was, you can definitely go back and watch it in the video. You can also come in for lessons and go through this stuff with me. Because like I said, it's some of these rules are weird.
My freshman year, for the lower the half step on the sharp one, I put flat on all of it.
And it does lower it, it's lowering it more than you want it to. Yeah. Okay. So here's where we're at, right? You're doing sheets, basic and advanced. They are very similar. The only difference really in the advanced one is this last little part where it's written in base clef with a bunch of ledger lines. And then you're going to write it in treble clef so it's easier to read.
Ledger line?
See, it's in a bunch of ledger lines, so then you're going to move it to treble clef so there's fewer ledger lines.
So, regular.
Yeah, and if you have questions on how to do that, I can help you. But that's the only difference, really, the advanced one versus the basic. If you are doing your composition using flat or note flight, or if you have something else that works for you, like Finale Notepad's not a bad one. If you have actual Finale, it's expensive but much better, or Sibelius, expensive but much better. So you're going to set up your composition document, start writing. We're going to do a check-in with you next week sometime and kind of see how things are going if you're doing that. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, then you can, I'm going to make sure I have my time right here. 3:09, beautiful. Okay, so advanced is going to be on the corner of the piano. I'll have basic. You can pick your sheet, and we will see you all tomorrow. I have basic. Yeah. Sure thing. There you go. Absolutely. Yes. Like jab myself. Basic. Yes. There you go, Emily. Serenity. Whoa. No, it's gonna come off of there. There we go. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes. Brady's creeping in there. Grace. There you go. Yeah. Once you're done with those, is either a spot up here that says turn in, like right next to the shelf. Otherwise, you can always put it in the blue folder in the back there. Okay. Those spots. There you go.